This is America, the richest country in the world, a land of rolling hills, of rivers and valleys, of vast plains and fertile farms. Its wealth is produced by millions of men and women who go out each day to their work in factory and field, in shop and office. They produce the things we Americans eat and wear, and the houses we live in. They make the goods, operate the services, build the many institutions that make up the American way of life.
Welcome to Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. We will see you in about 45 seconds or so. Make sure that you are subscribing to our channels, our LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Turn on notifications, and we are very excited to be here with you. It's almost time, about 30 more seconds. Make sure to grab your notebook and pen so you can jot down notes along the way, because at the end of the show, you could have an opportunity to ask our guests questions so we can dive a little deeper into these topics. And here we go. Welcome to Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. Well, thank you everyone for joining Did You Know? The ESCO HVAC Show. I'm Clifton Beck. I'm one of the hosts of this show, and we've really been spending a lot of time talking about changes in our industry and changes in technology and preparing all of our technicians for the equipment that's coming our way, new refrigerants, a lot of things that are really evolving in our industry. But the thing that we always discuss that we're lacking the most is who's going to work on all this equipment. And when we talk about some of the older generation of technicians like myself who didn't grow up on the technology, we've had to learn a completely different technology of equipment. So what about these jobs that we're going to be filling in? What about the educational programs? We have a lot of things to discuss in this upcoming couple of years to get our young technicians who are students prepared for an industry that they're going to be walking into that looks very different than the industry that most of us walked into. So today we have a very special guest with us. Kate Cinnamo from EXLORE the Trades is going to be hanging out with us and diving into some of the things that have changed in the industry and how we can really focus on the recruiting and the promotion and the exploring of the trades that all of us need to be more aware of. If we think about the trades that a lot of us grew up into, it was because of experiences that we had in life. I mean, were any of you this kid growing up? One of them, I definitely was. As a kid, a lot of us worked on things, but we didn't really always know exactly what we were doing. But we enjoyed tinkering with things. And as we evolved, some of us ended up finding jobs out in the field. A lot of us went to college just to get to college, like myself, and go, I don't know that this is really me. I love learning, but man, I really miss working on stuff. And some of us, as kids that worked on things, ended up being older kids that continued working on things and found ourselves in the trades, in a variety of different trades, right? So if we could have looked back in time and prepared for some of these jobs, where would we be in life? A lot of us didn't find exactly our home in the industry until later, once we were very experienced and had some opportunities to learn a little bit about life. Well, what if we had opportunities along the way to sculpt where we were going? Technicians in today's industries, in the trades, in HVAC and plumbing and electrical, are pursuing different avenues than many of us did. We were there to fix a lot of things. Now a lot of our younger generation are looking at the world going, I really want to make a difference. And there are changes in technology that have made these roles so much more significant. And you can have such an impact on the environment that we live in. So we're really anxious to be able to discuss the trades and discuss how to promote the trades to bring in some of these bright young talent into our programs. So Kate, thank you so much for joining us today. And let's learn a little bit about what Explore the Trades is doing for our industry, because it is a big deal, and it's something that we didn't have. We didn't have the advocacy like this 20, 30 years ago for sure.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. This conversation will be a lot of fun.
Yes, absolutely. We're a hoot.
So just to, give you a little bit of background about Explore the Trades, we're a nonprofit with our sole focus of bridging the technical talent gap to the service trades of plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. So that's what we do.
Okay. And Howard and Renee, I mean, how long have we seen this growing? How many decades has this transition in the trades been happening? I mean, from the outside looking in, I notice it, but I'm sure from the perspective of the educational content, it's been a change over time.
The technology required to have any of these skilled trades has grown exponentially. So the sad part is that we have less and less schools teaching these programs. And I think what's important about Explore the Trades is trying to help people understand the great opportunities out there where you can make a great living without going to a 4-year school.
Exactly. Lots and lots of opportunities. All right, so let's look at some of the topics that we're going to cover, and we'll start breaking them down as we go.
Sure. So like I said earlier, Clifton, so really our focus is really to promote the trades. And as Howard mentioned, I think Explore the Trades is positioned in such a unique spot where we have the opportunity to really fill in that foundational information, to really tell everybody, specifically students and educators and parents, really tell the story of why someone would consider these industries, for a career after high school, and really how they play into our everyday lives. The example I can use that I think about the most is how many students are out there, or adults for that matter, where you go into your kitchen and you turn the light on and you don't even think about the work and
all the things that go along with it.
Went into that, and just how does everything incorporate into our daily lives?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, when we think about trades from the perspective of 30 years ago, they didn't have the technologies that we have, so they didn't have the esteem that we have in today's generations. There was a time where the trades were kind of looked down as, well, if you're not going to succeed in college, this is a path you can go because you can still make pretty good money, working on some toilets and working on some drains and running some wire and maybe hooking up some cable and maybe working on a furnace or an air conditioner, which were all built very similar at the time. And that is nothing similar today. I even think about some of the electricians now that are getting into things like solar voltaic and technologies that weren't even thought of a generation or two ago to be a really well-suited career to look into.
Right. Yeah. I think with all of these systems that come into our homes and our workplaces every day, you think about everything that really separates us from a third world country. Clean water, indoor air quality, electricity. We forget about that every day and we take it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. We do. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's tell us a little bit about how we are affecting the trades and how that transition can help our educational institutions. We'll have a lot of educators that'll be joining us today wanting to learn more about how do I even market? Who do I start the conversations with?
Sure. So primarily, like I mentioned just a couple minutes ago, the main demographic to whom we are speaking would really be that K through 12 audience, educators, school counselors, and parents, again, to set the stage of what these careers have to offer. And I think in your intro, Clifton, seeing all the pictures of those kids playing outside and playing with tools, I think we have to remember that because the generations have changed so much, that a lot of the students right now who would be in middle school, high school, they don't know what they don't know.
They don't have the exposure.
Right. So if mom and dad aren't working on stuff at home, they're not going to see that either. So that's where we can come in to really set the stage to let them know all of the opportunity that would exist out here. So a lot of the work we do, again, we're focused on that school audience. We're focused on really adding filters to these trades to say, hey, let's talk about STEM. And I know we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
absolutely.
How the trades fall under STEM. Talking about the career growth that's possible. As soon as you finish high school and you start your apprenticeship, let's think about all of those career mile markers that you can achieve in these industries. So not only being a technician, but going into being a service manager and other leadership, and potentially sort of that entrepreneurship role that comes into play.
Yeah, because there are a lot of technicians, once they get out in the field, they think, oh, well, this is a good way for me to be able to have my own business someday. And it's a
Right.
small percent that do, but the ones that develop to that point, it takes all of that experiential investment over the time to be able
Yeah.
to run your own business. Not like you could go in, work for a year or two, and start your own business. There's a lot involved with that, many
Yep.
aspects of education.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we really want to talk to those adults and those
Yeah.
education professionals who would have the opportunity to influence a lot of those conversations at the school level.
Okay. So, and you're also working with contractors. And now, how does that play along? Do you have the
Yeah.
ability to influence contractors to have input on some of these educational programs?
Yeah, so a lot of the information we have online, and I'm sure we'll look at that in a little bit as well.
Hmm.
And a lot of the content that we have available for download from our website, available by request, a lot of
Yeah.
that content came out of conversations with contractors who would call and say, "Hey, Kate, I'm going to a career fair. What do you have that I could use to help tell the story?" So that's really how all of these came to be, to say, what are some of the basic questions? What are the most asked
Sure.
questions about being in the trades? And that's how we assembled it. So a lot of the content we have is used by contractors at high school fairs, recruiting events. So there's a lot of, I would say, play with a lot of those.
Okay, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I've always wondered how many of those call in, or Renee might even be able to have some aspect on that. Do we get very many contractors calling in asking what the paths and what the opportunities are for students?
Oh, absolutely. All of the time. Especially at that high school level. We're talking to instructors that are looking for, how do I encourage my students from going from my high school exploratory program where we're touching on we're touching on a little bit of air conditioning, some heating,
Pieces.
some plumbing,
Yeah.
to really choose a pathway to go and further their career and their studies beyond that high school level.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is our homepage. You have found it.
Mhm.
So this is our homepage. I was able to put our social media handle at the bottom and all the different channels we're on. But the way we wanted to sort of design the website is, depending on the demographic that you fit into, this can
Absolutely.
be your way to get into the questions that you would like answered.
Yeah. Who am
So-
I and what resources do you have for me?
That's exactly right. You got it.
Very cool.
And
Yeah.
Kate, if I can interject, I love that you have women in the trades on there. Most women don't see themselves there because their
Right.
parents didn't raise them that way.
No.
And
Right.
there's some great organizations out there promoting women in the trades.
Yeah.
And what I think people kind of forget is that women are almost 51% of our population. I can't speak for all the trades in HVAC. They're only 1.5% of our industry. So if
Right.
you're ignoring half the US population, you're never going to solve the technician shortage.
No. And the
Right.
cool thing about that has grown, and we are going to touch on that here in a little bit, aren't we, Kate? And I've got some input on some of our own material to talk about how that has grown and how resources like this are making that change. So, yeah, huge change in our industry.
Yeah.
Cool. Bam.
Yeah.
There's the one I was looking for.
There it is.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, a lot of the information. So over last year, we had the chance to host a couple of webinars specifically geared towards high school educators and middle school educators and school counselors, to say, hey, let us educate the educators. What sort of
Sure.
information can they have in their back pocket when they're talking with their students and really thinking about what that path might look like after high school. And we were able to pull some labor statistics in terms of, growth that we're expecting for the next handful of years. To Howard's point, in the trades, we have about 3 to 4% of women who are in the workforce right now, which is slowly increasing,
It
and
has.
really trying to break down the stereotypes where, well, you're not smart enough to go to college, you're quote unquote just a plumber, where we could easily dispel that myth to say, well, the apprenticeship is 8,000 hours and they're hands-on training, so
On
there's a lot
high-end
of
equipment and
ways-
technologies.
Mhm.
Exactly. There's a
Yeah.
number of ways to sort of change that perspective.
Yeah. And I've seen that personally grow just from the social media side. So on a channel that I had a couple of years ago, I used to do a similar kind of content, and I always kept about a 1.3 to 1.5% female
Mhm.
audience. And that was pretty consistent with a lot of other people that was in that realm. I could tell you that in this last 6 months, we are hovering around 3% females for our social content, which shows us that we have, just in a short period of time, started moving into that 3 and 4% female workers in the trades. And we're starting to see a lot more doing social broadcasting, showing what the trades look like from the female perspectives. And that is really developing into a growing trend. And it needs to be grasped. Because if you think about a lot of the educators out there have been like guys like me who grew up in the trades, and this is what you did. And when you get done, hopefully you get out of the field and you do some training. But then how do you approach young ladies to be involved with a trade that you may not even be good at communicating to young ladies to begin with?
Yeah.
So there's a learning curve for educators to be able to approach this women in the trades properly. And it's a huge door that, as this opens, is going to open up new avenues for both educators and for our youth as well. So,
Yeah.
so
I can just
glad to see
interject
this.
something there, Clifton.
Yeah.
A lot of women don't see themselves in the trades because we don't help them
We don't promote it.
as young girls.
Yeah.
But here, Renee, when you were growing up, did you ever think that you would be working in the HVAC industry? Okay. So
Never,
I don't think
never.
a lot of young women think that they have this stereotype in their mind of what an HVAC or plumbing job looks like.
Sure.
They don't realize how big the industry is, how many different types of jobs,
Yeah.
all the opportunities. If anyone watching, Renee's the executive director of the ESCO Institute. Who would, if you don't realize, everyone may have to start off in the same school. Where you go is really up to you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And even not even just for the female demographic, for all demographics coming into the trades, all the trades break off into so many different pathways. That's not just the hot sweaty technicians that are up on the roof. There's, you've got analytics, you've got controls, you've got so much automation and cool technology nowadays that it isn't the same as what we were taught
No.
that
Yeah.
these trades were many years ago. So
Yeah. I recently spoke with a contractor out in San Diego, and the owner has a handful of women serving as HVAC technicians. And the owner explained to me that they are probably the most booked out technicians on staff. Once
betcha.
they establish that customer base, it's full. But they were also sharing with me that when you think about it, and I think these are attributes maybe more for females, but depending on, what you're working on with your fingers, female fingers tend to be smaller, and it's just sort of that the ability to establish that rapport with the homeowner. Oftentimes it would be a woman at home answering the service call, right? So immediately there's that trust that can be built, attention to detail. So there's a lot of, intangible traits that I think are really way in our favor, actually.
I keep hearing the same thing from contractors, that they wish they had 10 women for every one that they've hired.
Yeah.
Because of the customer support, because that's a whole nother topic that we'll do on some shows is, the customer service side of being a technician. When you're interacting with people, a lot of times us guys aren't the best conversational people when we're out working in the field. We have to learn how to communicate. And it really does offer a lot of interesting opportunities. And, when you're talking about how so many of the different avenues of our trade are never really discussed, we have this envision of, Uncle Bob, the plumber with a beer belly and, can't keep his shirt tucked in, and Uncle Joe, that's an electrician that, can barely climb the telephone pole. And, we have all of these misperceptions of the industry. I remember having a conversation not too many years ago with a young guy in his late 20s, and we were talking about being in the HVAC industry, and he worked on cooling units that were on the sides of telecommunication buildings. And he worked on these on remote mountaintops and islands because they couldn't find technicians. So he was an outdoors person, very much into hunting and just enjoyed being out in nature. And he was an air conditioning technician that would fly out on a helicopter, get dropped in these remote mountaintop places where he could work on air conditioning equipment that was there on generators, and he would go in for 2 or 3 days and stay for a day or two and just be on the side of the mountain. I said, man, how do you find a gig like that? He said, we can't find anybody to fill the jobs. I was like, wow, there's very interesting jobs in our industry that people are unaware of. And, doing things like this, talking about the opportunities, talking about how HVAC is not this. HVAC is unbelievably big. Electrical is not this anymore. It's got so many opportunities. Plumbing is not just a small window of opportunities. It is technology that is moving at the speed of every other industry. So,
Clinton, on that note,
yeah.
Several years ago, we had someone at our conference from the CIA. And I had to go ask them, why is the CIA at an HVAC educators conference? They go,
Right.
We are in desperate need of people to work on HVAC, plumbing, electrical. And I go,
Worldwide.
I'm thinking here, that's exactly it. They go, embassies. We
Yeah.
want people who want to go see the world, work on different equipment, join the State Department. And I thought, how cool would that be? You get to see the world, work for the CIA and be an HVAC technician or a plumber.
I have a buddy that was a chiller technician on one model of chiller. So he was like the best technician at that model. And all he did was waited for the phone call to come from an embassy, and he would hop on a flight to go work on a chiller anywhere around the world. And that was his gig. And so there are so many opportunities in our industry, and we just need to be open to the thought that it's not a little job anymore. It's an abundance of opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of women in the trades, when we were sharing all of this information with the teachers and school counselors, in that spirit of really understanding the history behind it, we were able to share a few facts about Lillian, who was the first first female master plumber in the 50s. And so, when you think back, this isn't anything new. I mean, this was 70 years ago. So it's just really interesting to sort of uncover history a little bit to share that with everybody.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm a history buff, so you're speaking my language right now. One of the most interesting conversations I have ever had. At one point in my career, I was working on some equipment at a retirement community here in Indiana. And I was carrying on some conversation with a little old lady that was there, just an amazing individual. And we started talking about what she did for a career. She said, well, you could probably enjoy this. I wired instrument panels for B-52 bombers during the war. And I went, you did what? She said, yep. She says, I was a small enough person. There wasn't a man that could get under that dash. So I wired the dash for every B-52 that came out of the plant. And I thought, man,
wow.
we have really started sparking conversations on opportunities.
Yeah. That's
absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Very
And
cool.
everyone that's joining us, we really want to know, where are you coming in from? Let us know where you're at. Let us know how much you're enjoying this. And if you have some comments that need to be answered along the way, let us know. This is an open conversation, and we really want you to join and participate with us. All right. Now, there's some big numbers.
Here we go. Yeah. So another stat that we have pulled in sharing, one of the reasons why people should consider the trades after high school is that just the amount of student loan debt. I mean, you look at the number and you can't even fathom $1.73 trillion in student loans carried by everyone in the United States right now. So,
yeah.
I think that's an easy message to share. And earlier, Howard was really talking about the fact of you can start an apprenticeship and start to earn a wage, whereas on the college side, you're accruing debt in the process and not earning. And it's not like for our organization, it's not like we're against college. I think there's room in the conversation for everybody. It's just, when you get down to dollars and cents, that's a pretty good argument right there.
Well, Kate, I think what we need to do is we need to ask people to start rephrasing things. You need post-secondary training instead of college. Some of that's a trade school. Some's a community college, apprenticeship, military. university.
UA.
And what I was saying earlier is that 20% of all jobs require a 4-year degree, which means 80% don't. I feel like we're setting up so many of these kids to have all this debt that they're never going to be able to pay off. And if we were to just do an equal comparison, look at two people when they're 30, how much are they making? I'd bet more often than not, you'd find the person who went in the trades is making as much, if not more, than the person who went to university without all the debt. But no one ever they look at what they're making when they start,
Right.
and they don't realize they're getting paid to go to school rather than paying to go to school.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely sticker shock there for sure.
I've witnessed that, firsthand myself. With kids going to school, that there's a big difference on that kind of debt that you come. My own son, he was fortunate to be able to do firefighting through his junior and senior year of high school, and then continued on to finish up his degree afterwards. Versus friends that didn't start in high school, that didn't start until after they got out of high school. Many of them are still in school, and it's made a big difference in his life and the way that he looks at his future in a career.
Yeah.
So big numbers to talk about there.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing, when we talk about, especially to that educator audience, really thinking about, okay, why do technicians love what they do? And so we just put up some of the top 5 answers that we would repeatedly get, and I think that all revolves around the same theme of really being community minded, in that that someone in the neighborhood, the water heater went out, or whatever that job might be, but
sure,
really having the critical thinking skills to diagnose the issue. Here's how we're going to problem solve, and really communicate with the homeowner that way. But in other aspects of earning potential, helping the environment, I think Renee mentioned earlier, with all of the technology that's in there now, there's so many devices to help with water conservation, energy conservation. There's a whole, toolbox full of those. And, I think with those technicians, once you have that skill set, you can really go anywhere. I mean, an embassy, for Pete's sake, I never would have thought about that, but that opens up a whole new door of careers.
It's interesting to see that number 5, because that is something that a lot of us in the industry are, we believe it's happening, but to actually see the comments coming back from youth, that's pretty impactful. Because when I was coming through the trades, that wasn't even a topic of discussion. So we've seen those shifts over time, and really interesting to see how that plays out. I bet that moves up the line, especially we start seeing more things like, keeping the community safe and healthy.
Yep.
I think our younger generation, well, I know that they are, our younger generations are very interested in making an impact on the world that they live in.
Yeah, I was recently read an article from Pew Research, and they were spotlighting Gen Z for a number of reasons. But when it really got down to societal and cultural things to think about, the climate was right at the top of the list. And our industry has a really strong case to say, you come into HVAC or plumbing or electrical, what a great way to really help the environment, again, with all of those devices that we can use.
Sure. And look at job stability, one that just came in from Sanjay. HVAC professionals can't be out of work. There's always an opportunity. That is so true. You can go anywhere in the world and be an HVAC, a refrigeration technician, a plumber, electrical. The demand is just so much more significant than it was even a generation or two before.
Yeah.
These jobs can't be exported or automated. So I look at bullet 1, feeling accomplished each day. How many people get tired of going to the same place, doing the same thing every day? In the trades, I don't care if you're an electrician, plumber, HVAC, you're going to do something different every day. So if you don't like today, tomorrow's going to be very different.
That's how I got here. Yeah.
Think of all the people you get to meet on a daily basis too. And, you're helping the environment, the entire environment as a whole, but you're helping each individual environment too. Every home that somebody's living in, every building that somebody is occupying, you are helping those individuals. So it very much is a change the world, change the planet type of career.
Yeah.
But if we're talking to a lot of teachers every day, and a lot of them are watching this, they're all struggling trying to understand how to recruit people. That's why this is great, because I'll just share something. You ask most contractors, whose job is it to recruit for you? They go, oh, it's the local trade school. Well, that teacher is working a day job, a night job. They're developing curriculum. Most were handed a set of keys, told go teach HVAC, go teach plumbing.
Go teach what you know.
The recruitment task force too.
Yeah.
So I look at these bullets; they're very helpful. Number 4 there, I don't think people realize the earning potential. And if they look at like the Bureau of Labor Statistics website, see what people can actually make. I'm being half joking here, but have you ever met a poor plumber?
No. Hey, Michael just made a comment. Seeing all these massive tech layoffs makes him feel much more secure about working in a trade. It's a high-paying, stable career.
Right.
Oh, great stuff. One conversation point that came in from Marshall was, said, great conversation. Can we talk about opportunities and success stories for individuals who are undertaking a mid-career switch? We can touch on that a little bit. This is really focused towards our younger students, but Marshall, it's very much about bringing this awareness to anyone that is looking at the trades.
I'll just share some here. I go to some trade shows, and I've seen people there in their 40s and 50s looking for new careers.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them are not on any of the recruitment posters. So we talked earlier about how we're not doing a good job recruiting females into the trades. We're also not telling people this is a great second career.
Yeah.
I said it a minute ago, these jobs can't be exported or automated.
Nope.
You get to do something different every day. They're very rewarding. If you're already in some kind of skilled trade, some other similar skilled trade, take a look at these skilled trades. But even if you're not, it's never too late to start on a career as an HVAC technician, plumber, electrician, etc.
I had a 63-year-old come to an EPA class maybe 5 years ago. And I asked him what he was doing. He said, oh, I just retired and I had my air conditioner go down and I couldn't find a technician. And when they got here and give me a cost on it, I realized that I spent a long time in the wrong career. I said, that's a good point. So at 63, he was taking his EPA 608 basic.
Good for him. So the next slide, the next piece of content that you have on the screen, Clifton, this is what I was referring to earlier in the conversation when we were having all of these conversations with contractors to say, hey, what do you have that I can take? And we have a plumbing career path on our website. We have one for HVAC and electrical. And we're also working on one for customer experience to really start that conversation about the customer service. And so and I would say this has been the most popular piece of content that we have, because at a glance, again, you can see those career milestones in order in the spectrum, adding in some of the wages. And I know that the wages, depending on where you are, we wanted to make this as generic as possible so that it could fit in within any region in the country. So again,
pretty realistic.
It's a great way to help tell the story of, okay, here's the opportunity. Here's where you could be. Here's where you can go. There's a lot of movement there.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of goes back to where Marshall was asking about making, mid-career switches. Here's your templates. What do you want to do, Marshall? That's what we're here to do, is to give you the resources on ways that you can look, because you may not stay in your own career, or you may want to. I got to a stagnant point right there at that number 3. I got there at one point in my HVAC career. I was a technician. I was leveled out. It was either go into some kind of management or just keep on working on stuff. And so I thought, well, I need to do something different. Let me pick another one of these careers and go see if I can do something with it to make myself more valuable. So I jumped from the HVAC side over to the electrical, went to night school for a couple years and grabbed the master electrician license, so that then I could go either direction, electrical or in HVAC, and they walk hand in hand. That's the beauty of the trades. You get good at doing one trade. You don't have to just stay in that trade. You've already learned so many of these fundamentals along the way that can just continue on your growth path. So these are really cool career paths to have. Okay.
So apprenticeships, this is a topic that we have online, and really emphasize this with the counselors and teachers to whom we were talking. And again, to Howard's point from earlier, just have like some sort of post-secondary education, apprenticeships, military. I mean, there's a whole slew of things that would fall under that category.
Right.
And we wanted to share a couple facts with our audience to say that, there's 8,000 hours of training, which is very much equal to your bachelor's degree that you might have in college. And just, again, going back to the history piece, but we've had apprenticeships since the Middle Ages. I mean, that's what we've used to pass down all of this craft training. So again, wanted to provide them with sort of an average of the first year wage, and knowing that, being mindful that the training and education can vary by location, since it's not a one size fits all approach. So again, just some facts that we wanted to share with them.
Yeah, apprenticeships are not new at all.
No.
You're exactly right. The Middle Ages. That's one of those avenues of these old established apprenticeships is how I learned to hone my communicating skills, through Freemasonry, which teaches the old apprenticeship, fellow craft, master level, and you learn the skills of the trade along the way. And in that, you learn not just the physical components, but you learn the communicating components. And you can't really skip through those entire processes. You're starting as an apprentice, and you're learning from other professionals along the way. And at the end of that apprenticeship, you've learned an entire trade. So there's a lot to say with quality apprenticeship programs.
People need to look at one last thing. You're making money while going to school rather than paying money to go to school.
Yeah.
I can't reiterate that enough. And if Clifton, for your history lesson, Benjamin Franklin was an apprentice too. So.
Many early founders. Absolutely.
And the other great thing about the apprenticeship program too is there are some people that choose trades because the traditional education path isn't right for them. The English, However, you're still learning, you're still taking classes and going to school in an apprenticeship, but you're able to immediately apply what you're learning in your everyday work. So that makes a ton of the difference. It's not the same thing as, all right, we learned this in the book and now we're going to go over here and do this. You're actually out on the job applying that knowledge. So it soaks in a whole nother way.
Yeah.
And the people who are teaching you are people who are successful in that trade. They don't just allow someone to go to school who's never worked in a field to teach something. These are all people who have been at the highest level who are now teaching that trade to other people. So their excitement is going to come through, and you're going to be excited to go to those classes.
Yeah. I used to work with some programs over in Ohio that were apprenticeship programs at technical schools, but they were in conjunction with their local contractors. So the contractors were paying all of the college tuition if you would stay with that contractor for 2 years after graduation. So they were earning on the job, learning on the job, and getting their college tuition paid for by the contractor. And I really hope that we see more programs like that adopting across the country, because they were all incredibly successful programs.
Yeah. Another thing that we wanted to share with that audience, and what we continue to share, is just the number of ways that you would be able to find an apprenticeship. And of course, again, it's not a one size fits all, but we wanted to sort of educate the educators as to where they would be able to help their students find one. And again, a lot of what we talk about and a lot of what we focus on really comes from those educators saying, and there's been a number of times where I've heard this, but they would acknowledge the fact that they have the right students in their class for these trades. But the problem is that as the adult, as the professional, they don't know how to get started. So then they don't talk about it. And it feels like a knife right through your heart a little bit to say, oh my gosh, this is really where the industry can really help fill that gap of information.
It's exactly what it is. It's definitely a gap of information. Renee, how many phone calls do you get from people going, where do I start a career in HVAC?
Every day. Nearly every day people are calling. Because our name is ESCO Institute, they go, well, I wanted to sign up for your classes. So there are definitely lots of interest and not a lot of information out there to show them how to get started. So this is awesome.
Exactly. And so we can find that at explorethetrades.org.
Yep.
What do we do? We're looking
Yes.
for training jobs.
Oh yeah, and again, like I had said earlier when our conversation started, really the niche that we can fill in the trades. I mean, we are
Mhm.
at the starting line. We are at the starting line of really building that foundation of information. So, we talked about what a journeyman is. We talked about what a master is because these are terms that may not be used and may not be familiar with everyday
Right.
life. So we wanted to share that bit of information as well. Here's what that means, and here's why it's important when we're looking at the trades.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see you have the Bureau of Labor Statistics on there.
Yeah.
I tell people if they dive into that webpage, they could find their own local data because it's obviously going to be very different,
Sure.
Yes.
Regional.
rural versus big city,
Yep.
different geographical places.
Yep.
Great tool.
For sure.
What amazes me is like when we get into that master level of technicians for any of the trades, where those numbers can go. Because there was a time where there was somewhat of a cap on how much that you can make in the industry. That is multiplied. I mean, I've had students that were making as much money as I was out in the trades. So there is a significant income that could be made when you commit yourself to getting to those higher levels and getting those master certifications.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, going into the different career paths, I think we've alluded to it several times during the conversation, but going from an apprentice to technician, install, just really what those different opportunities would be, so to speak, and then sort of the average salary. So that I think what's attractive is in some of the cases, in some of the shows we've been a part of, students will come up and they'll look at it and we'll see operations manager. So then you have the chance to really talk about what that job does. What does that mean to the business? And oh, by the way, that's a pretty nice salary to go with it. So this has really given us the window to say, okay, there's technical, there's customer experience, and also now we get to really highlight some of the business roles that are in there. And I think it's a really nice conversation piece to say, also, did you know there's marketing, there's finance, there's HR, and all of these play together to make those companies successful.
Yeah. All you have to do is walk into the front door and realize that, you know what, it's not a bunch of technicians running this place.
Right. Yep. Again, we've been starting to add customer experience information to our website because we know that with call center and dispatch, that's a whole part of the business that helps get our technicians on the road. So again, I think those careers are a little bit unknown in terms of, hey, I may not have heard dispatch before. What does that mean? What does the call center rep, what do they do and what are they responsible for? So again, it allows us to sort of dip our toe into that soft skill option, which may be more attractive to females, which down the line, could turn someone into a technician. So, I think it's important for people to realize how both sides of the business can work.
Yeah. Dispatch is one of those jobs that it's probably more difficult to fill than the actual technician jobs. I hear that a lot from contractors. So it does make you think about the different job opportunities. One of our good friends of the industry, Steve Kasha, has been teaching soft skills for decades. And a lot of contractors, when they finally get to that understanding of realizing that I have employees that need soft skills because they're not technicians, it can really expand the way you look at your own business and the production of your own business. So yeah, there's a lot of other aspects.
Yeah, and this is what I think is interesting, specifically when we're talking about students. And I remember, 100 years ago when I was in school and the school counselor would come in and ask, what do you want to do after high school? Well, who knows? But I think that when we're able to drill it down to really communicate the traits and the attributes that someone might have, I think it's a cool lens to put on to say, oh, if you like to work with your hands, if you like to work outside, if you like to problem solve, let's not forget about HVAC and plumbing and electrical, because all of these things can fit into those trades so nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I look back at those and it wasn't the trades that were asking me about this 30 years ago. It was the military going, do you have any of these traits? Because if you do, there are successful careers waiting for you. And if there would have been someone coming through at the same time going, there are successful careers waiting for you, can you check off any of these? I would have probably looked at them and went, well, you got my interest. What can you offer?
Can I add an 11th bullet for everyone to ponder? We're essential.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
Everyone who's trying to use what we're doing today to better understand recruiting the next generation of technicians, think about COVID's going to be on your mind for many years. The Department of Labor tracks over 700 different occupations. Only 17 were declared essential. HVAC was one of those. So was plumbing. Okay, so is electrical. Why? So if I could talk on the HVAC side real quickly, how did we transport vaccines? How did we keep grocery stores open? How did we attend school online? I could go on and on. People don't realize these are essential jobs that are not going away. So when everyone else was laid off, told to stay at home, we were all told to go to work.
Yeah, absolutely were.
That's true.
Okay, let's look at some basics.
Yeah. So what we also want to do, and we're continuing to do this, and again, the trade shows that we attend as Explore the Trades are with Skills USA. So we participate in that national event. We also participate with the American School Counselor Association, which is ASCA for short. And what we have seen, not only are we seeing demand from high school counselors with information, we're also starting to see a trend go younger with middle school and elementary. And it's really interesting to have these conversations with those individuals because they know they can see what's happening. And so they want to start having those conversations earlier. And the way that we have been able to help communicate, about these trades and really what they mean to society at large and the skill set that you need to have. Now, by breaking down math and chemistry and PE and English, we are able to directly tie how all of those subjects directly impacts your role in the trades. And so I think that helps people understand and really connect the dots to say, oh, it's not just, I got my tool bag, I guess I'm a plumber now. I think it really helps add some credence to the fact that these technicians and everyone in the business are highly educated people. And here's why. We can directly apply math and we can directly apply chemistry. So it's been a really impactful talking point with these educators.
Yeah, I could see that. Just personal experience. Some of the most brilliant people that I have met in life, I've been brazing pipe with and turning wrenches with, and to realize that, it was choices that they had made to work with their hands and use their intelligence for very productive ways that makes you realize that there's a lot of art. Even Jason had just made a point a while ago that even an installation, there is an art to it. I had this conversation yesterday with my friend Alarang Isaacs from over in Ghana. Sent me a message wanting to know if it's worth investing time for him to become an installation technician because he really enjoys that work. I said, that's where you can be an artist. You're not an artist when you're fixing things. You're an artist when you're creating and building things. I've seen plumbers do the most amazing art with doing connections on piping that really makes you look at just the picture of their work and go, that's a brilliant mind that is doing this kind of work. So yeah, a lot of technical aspects to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that your recommended class list here too, with the math and the physics and the chemistry, because I don't think people think about how much math and science is involved in any of these trades. No. But I will tell you, open up any of these training manuals and look at the airflow calculations that you need to know, or the piping calculations that you need to know to lay pipe. And it is definitely not something that you have to be good with your math and your physics and your chemistry to really do well in this trade.
Right.
And we continually hear guidance counselors say, oh, you don't like math, you'll love banging on things in shop class.
Right.
And they really don't understand it couldn't be further
away from the truth.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah. And so in all of this conversation, when we're talking directly about how all of these subjects play into the trades, I think that when we all know, I think we've all heard, the STEM focus that that K through 12 schools have around the country.
Right.
And as much as the conversation is always about, oh, it's something sexy, right? Like robotics and all of these things. And we, I think, are probably one of the most positioned industries to say, hey, if you want a direct correlation between science and technology and engineering and math, here you go. We have electrical, we have HVAC, we have plumbing, and here's why. Renee, you just said it. Here's your pipe calculations. This is how we do it. And the best way that we've been able to describe it is, when you turn on your water faucet, there's calculations that went into that. When you're turning on your light switch, when you're turning on the air conditioning, there's a whole bunch of things at play that you don't even see, that all of these technicians are well versed in. And that's pretty exciting to add that lens to it.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And I love that angle. I get in trouble all the time because someone around the house will ask, well, why does this work? Why does that not work? And I have to go, and they're like, no, don't speak up. We don't want to know that much detail about it. But it's fascinating, the things that we have around us that we don't know. And I've seen this from ladies that have entered the industry, got to the industry and became amazing technicians and went, this is the most rewarding thing ever. No one ever told me this is how this thing works. Now I know, and now I can do it. I can fix any of this because I understand how the thing works now. Yeah. And that, I love it. I spent a lot of time looking at some of the social posts from lady technicians of different industries because they are absolutely eating up this opportunity because we didn't, give that education at our younger ages that this is how things work. We want you to learn these things, then go do a career with them. Well, what about learning the things around you? What about learning your plumbing, your electrical, your HVAC?
Yeah,
it's all
absolutely.
Clifton, we're at a disadvantage though. If you think about it, I walk in your house and wow, that's a nice new TV, nice counters. No one ever says, can I go in your attic and check out your heat pump? Or, can I rip open the wall and see how it's wired?
So true. Boy, that's an efficient HVAC system you have. Let's go take a look at that. How many horsepower is that thing? No, I'm sure. I do have one video to share while we're right here. Let me bring that in real quick.
When you think of the skilled trades, what do you think of? The industries of plumbing, electrical, heating, and air are vital to our daily lives, but the perception that surrounds them is anything but celebrated. So, we're going to break the stereotypes and share with you what the trades are and what they are not. As a skilled tradesperson, you can work anywhere you want. No, really! The skills you learn as a plumber, electrician, or heating and air technician are in demand everywhere around North America. The trades are not limited to one geographic area. Tradespeople aren't limited to one single factory, office space, or work site. In other words, you aren't at the mercy of a job that exists at one location. Whether it's in the city or in the country, near the ocean or up in the mountains, do the work you love in the place that you love. To learn more about this industry, visit explorethetrades.org.
Very, very well done video. I like that a lot. And it says so much about what this industry is, the things that we have to offer.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so another thing, and I'm glad I have the audience that I do, we were able to partner with Ferguson last year to help create plumbing and HVAC skill labs in high schools last year. So we were able to create 3 new spaces last year. And this year, we came back for a second iteration. So if there's anyone on the call who knows of any high school or middle schools around the country or Canada, we do have funding available. So what is happening is schools have the opportunity to apply. We're treating it as a grant program. So they have the opportunity to put their name in for products and equipment worth up to $25,000 for a new lab. Or if you have an existing class at your school, we also have product and equipment worth up to $10,000. So I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad I have the audience that I do. And this is our way in partnership with Ferguson to get equipment in front of students. And like we've alluded to this whole time is they don't know what they don't know. So if they don't understand what a furnace does or, a water heater, now is the time to do that. Let them tinker around with it, let them open it up and really understand how it all works together. So we have information online. So I'll just put it out there. And if anyone has questions, we'd be happy to talk. And we were able to snag some of the photos from that. So the photos that featured on the screen are from Pat Plumbing, Heating and Air in Topeka, Kansas. So this is really exciting.
Yeah, so a lot of things going on with new opportunities for educating our students.
Yes.
All right, let's go over some resources while we've got you here.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you again for having me on. One of the things that we have available online are our poster kits. So if you all recall, just a couple minutes ago, we saw sort of that timeline of a plumbing career path.
Sure.
So what we did is we were able to take those documents, we made them into 18 by 24 size posters. And this has been a really valuable tool for us. So using fundraised dollars, using those donations, we've been able to provide these to schools for free. So we started this give back in August of 2021. Since that date, we've sent out about 1,500 of those kits throughout the US and Canada, which puts us at about 1,300 classrooms. So we had a couple of classrooms request more than one copy, but it's been a really nice tool that would allow counselors and teachers to have that conversation. And even if they don't know very much, at least they can start from scratch to say, okay, here are the steps that you can take advantage of. So we have that request form online, and I would love to send out more. So this has been a great tool just to get the conversation started.
There we go. That's what we're looking for, is our resources.
You hear that, educators?
That's it.
Request those resources.
That's it. And from what we've heard from those educators, they are putting them in the lunchroom, they're putting them in the hallway.
Yeah.
They're looking at them at parent-teacher conferences if the conversation comes up. So it's a really nice go-to guide for them as well.
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things we've been looking at, is how do you educate parents to help them understand the transitions as well? When do you have that opportunity to look at a program that your child might be interested in that you weren't even thinking about?
Yes.
And glad that we get more information out there for that.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, you have CTE instructors all over the country.
Yep.
Don't know how to create their own videos. If you have these resources, they don't have to make them. They just need
ready
to
to go.
That's
why I wanted to share that one video, a couple minutes, and it's good information.
Yes.
And very well done.
Yeah. Just a side note, when we were talking about parent-teacher conferences, I think that parents seem to be the toughest audience for us to get the message through, because there's a lot of preconceived notions about college and not going to college. And, so I think that's always in the back of their mind. So I think this is a really good, some really good information to have in our back pocket to help share that. So the second thing that we have on the list, with all of the videos and downloads that you have shared today, Clifton, we have those online, and we have the capability for people to share those with each other. So if you want to copy the YouTube link and put it on your social media page for your business, or use these at a job fair, I invite you to do that. That's what it's there for. So really, kind of the rising tide raises all ships, I think, is how we would position that.
That's what we keep saying. It's going to take a village.
It is, absolutely.
An addition to our HVAC village, and we're so grateful to have you here.
Absolutely. The third thing is our Skill Lab initiative, which I just touched on, and we have more information online. And then the fourth thing that we have linked on our site is some trades trivia. So again, wanting to create a tool or an exercise that parents or teachers or students themselves can take. And a lot of it is based in history, so that it starts to get the brain thinking like, oh, wow, I guess plumbing's been around for a long time. Not maybe in this fashion, but all of these iterations hundreds of years ago. I think it's really cool to see how it has transitioned to now. So something fun to do.
Yeah, very good. And so all of those resources that are on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, explorethetrades.org.
All right. Well, let's take a break. That's a lot of information. That is a lot of good stuff. That is a lot of things that are directly out of the heart of ESCO, because we believe in recruiting our young our young learners and helping them explore the opportunities and, the things that are available in the trades that a lot of people, haven't really been promoting the way that they should. One of the questions that just came in from Keith, are residential technicians familiar with commissioning these new advanced systems? Unfortunately, Keith, no. There's a lot of older technicians like myself that are out in the field having to learn this technology and may not know it as well as someone that grew up with, technology in their hand. A lot of this new equipment is commissioned from your phone or from your tablet. You have to know technology to be able to even install and commission and service some of this technology that we're starting to see in the industry. And that's why we've been trying to stay ahead of all this. We need these young tech savvy students to see what's out there. We need them to come to class and not get a mechanical set of gauges on day one, hand them a digital set of gauges and go, check this out. Now we're going to go back and learn on the mechanical so that you learn all the fundamentals, but this is the kind of cool stuff that you will get to work on as you progress through the programs, through the apprenticeships.
But what's funny?
Great
Clifton,
stuff.
I talk to so many teachers say, I don't want to see a single cell phone in my classroom.
Why
And
not?
I go, would you ever tell them not to bring their multimeter? So you're telling them not
It's a
to bring the
tool.
tools that interact with the equipment.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a test one time. I was in a class, I had a bunch of young technicians, and I kept the vocabulary very basic. I said, you're all here for a basic assessment of your skills in the mechanical world. And you've got an hour to take the test and go. And immediately hands came up. Nope, no questions. You just have this test. The purpose of the test was to see how many used the tools that they actually had. And it was insane, the amount of young technicians that were done in 20 minutes and the older technicians never got finished. All because of understanding what a tool is. For our younger generations, their electronic device is absolutely a tool. That's what they've been taught on. Okay, anyone else? I've got some good comments here. Keith says this, once again, fantastic, fabulous topic, and it is. This is stuff that we have to talk about. We have to be prepared because the future is not down the road. We're living in the future, and we're preparing for this future that we're moving into. Great
question.
conversation. Yeah.
So Explore the Trades has all these great resources. They're going to be at the HVAC Excellence Conference in 2 months. This isn't a question, it's a comment. If you're an instructor and you're coming to the conference and you don't stop by to see Explore the Trades, I think you're really missing out on getting tools to help you recruit the next generation of technicians.
I do too.
Yep. We'll be there. This will be our first time there, so we're really excited.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
And there we are. My teammate Maddie and I. So we are a team of 2. So I would just invite anyone on the call. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have ideas, that we can incorporate into the work that we do, our contact information is there, and along with our social feeds and our website. So I invite anyone with questions or comments. Would love to have a conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we've still got quite a few people online, but not a lot of questions coming in. I think we've pretty well answered all of the highlights. I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up for the day. Anything else? Any last comments, questions? Renee, Howard, Kate, anything from us?
Kate, I want to just thank you for being here with us and telling us all about Explore the Trades and all the tools and resources available, not only just for our educators, but for people that are looking to get into the trades. They now have some place a resource to utilize to find more details and really learn more about these things. So thanks for the resources you have, and thanks for your time today. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
Indeed.
And building on what Renee said, I've seen your videos. They're phenomenal. I hope everyone shares them. I don't care whether it's with their students, prospective students, friends, neighbors. It's just a great resource to help people know about the trades.
That's exactly right.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Clifton, for the invitation. And I think everyone on the call and everyone who's commented, I think there's a lot of passion about it. And, we think about, all of the opportunity that's been lost after they've taken out tech ed classes from high school. So, we've probably lost a generation's worth of technicians and people who could work in the industry. So now is the time that we get to build that back, which I think is really exciting.
I do too. It's a great place to be in the industry and to be a part of that.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. And we look forward to seeing you again next week with more fantastic representatives of the HVAC and refrigeration industry. Have a good evening. Thank you for joining Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show, brought to you by the ESCO Institute in HVAC Excellence. Our mission is to bring the top educators of the industry here for you in a live, unique experience so that you can join us from multiple social platforms, all with the opportunity to ask questions, to be involved, and to learn about the things that are changing in our industry as they are changing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notifications when we go live every week. Are you an educator looking for resources to be the best that you can be? Man, you're in the right place. And we invite you to come join us at the National HVACR Education Conference, where we bring all of these guests and many more, along with manufacturers and different organizations of the trade, so that we can all be in one place at one time and gather this information to make us better together. How do you learn more? Go to escogroup.org, select HVAC Excellence, and then the conference. I look forward to seeing you again next week on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show.